Welcome to Access to Analytics, the show where we discuss everything data and access to data.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Access to Analytics. Today we have Francesco, who is lead data engineer at Allianz, joining us to talk about everything data and data access management. Hey, Francesco, you mind giving a short introduction first?
Albert, thank you for having me. Short introduction. I started working in IT 20 years ago, more than that. I started as a software engineer, then I drifted into doing SQL on top of Oracle database, ended up in a data warehouse project, and then I did BI for the last 15 years, BI and data at this point, because it's not cool anymore. The last few years, I'm working as a freelancer, working for different companies, business streaming, Pick and Kloppenburg. Now I'm at Allianz. Before I worked also at Pixar, at Zalando, worked for MicroStrategy for many years for different customers in Europe. So I did a bit of everything, and now I'm enjoying, let's say, the freedom of be free to pick my clients and enjoy life.
Because you are a seasoned data engineer, right? You've been around for a while now. I think we met when you were data engineer at Zalando, working on exciting projects there. You moved on to business streaming, now at Allianz. So I think you have quite a background to talk about this topic and in depth. So at Allianz, how are things there? And also curious how it's different to the previous jobs that you had, right? How is Allianz different? How is data used differently there, perhaps?
It's a small startup created by Allianz to manage some specific, let's say, I would say properties, but the reality is that we are trying to simplify the access to third-party applications, third-party providers for the insurance claim process. So while we are part of Allianz, we are separated from Allianz because it's just a small startup. I'm a team lead there, but my team is 2 data engineers, and we have a machine learning engineer, AI scientist. It's a small team, and we are trying to do a lot with that. With what we have, we are still ramping up our infrastructure, because in part we are still Allianz, and Allianz is a huge and old insurance company. So there are processes. There are some. I'm familiar with the rules. I know that there are processes in these, insurance, banks, financial institutions. Just because it's part of the business, it's an industry that is heavily regulated, and in part this is also spilling off on us. So some stuff are not going fast as you would like in a startup, but we are building a greenfield project, putting together the data that they have, and it's till now it's been quite fun.
And you're working at a big bank as Allianz, or big financial institution at Allianz. You have to comply with some security standards, process procedures, because it's at the end it's very sensitive data they're working with, and the reputation is very important. So if I understand it correctly, what you're doing with data is you're taking data from third-party applications and then exposing it to help. Is it Allianz help with the underwriting?
Well, actually not. What we do is we are more like building a wrapper. Not us, but let's say the core product is a wrapper around some third-party providers of APIs, AI products. Let's say you have a car accident. You take a picture of your. You want to submit a claim, and they will ask you to submit a picture of your car or 2 pictures. And there is someone that will analyze this picture and say, "Hey, you hit, the lights in the front. You broke. You have a scratch on a door, etc." So there is a service that will analyze the picture and say, "Hey, the door is broken." There will be another service that will say, "Because your car is this model, is this from this year, the door will cost you this amount of money to repair." So someone that has to put together all this information Also, there are maybe some internal information like you had already an accident with your car or not, right? And we'll make you an offer and say, we can give you this amount of money and that's it, or you can repair the car and send us the receipts. Or, for example, you will go to one of the workshops that are associated to us, you will get some discount and the process will be smoother and so on. So there are a lot of companies providing some services in this process. At the end of the day, what we are building, again, not the data team, but my colleagues, it's a wrapper around a set of other providers, right? And what I want to have, it's something quite interesting, something that it's the possibility for our customers to see. I mean, I'm not talking here. Customer is not the person with that has an accident with his car, but is another insurance company. I mean, that is going to to have the possibility to try different providers, the possibility to see how well the process goes, do some A/B testing, do a lot of things and so on. So there are some data produced, of course, in this process, and we are getting all this data and going to show them to our internal clients for the data teams.
At Allianz, what I understand is that you're taking unstructured data like pictures, right, and then centralizing that for like ML models to determine the claim, the damage that has been done, so that Allianz or your internal customers can determine what the claim is and how it can be resolved. What type of technology are you using for that?
The data, it's very, let's say, mainstream technologies. We are using the AWS, so everything ends up in S3. We use Kafka to ingest business events, and we use Kafka Connect to materialize them in S3. So there is nothing overcomplicated. Then the data, they go into Snowflake. Our data warehouse is Snowflake. We like to call our buckets on S3 data lake, but at the end of the day, we do not use it for any other purpose than just as a storage, an intermediate step to go into Snowflake. There is dbt that uses this S3 bucket as materialize them into Snowflake as external tables. So everything that we do in terms of transformation happens through dbt. And then we are still in the process of selecting a visualization tool. I would love to have something that integrates very neatly with the dbt and all the information that we already have in dbt, like the schema, the lineage, and so on. And all this is orchestrated using Airflow. We were lucky to have our colleagues already using Kubernetes. So what we said was, okay, we want to use Airflow. There is a Helm chart, very easy to prepare, very easy to install.
What type of data do you have? Because you mentioned pictures. What else do you have?
No, these are, the pictures are submitted by, let's say, the users, and they are forwarded to these providers. The providers at that point, they will provide an API response. So what we get is more or less information about the pictures is not something interesting for us, also because we do not have the, this is our, let's say, private data. It's something that is it's not something interesting for us. Our product is not about the picture. Our product is about the the flow of the API calls that our customer will make and how we respond. So it is quite the data that we get is mostly structured data. The amount of data that we have, in a sense, is also quite limited in the amount, because as you can see, how many accidents would happen in the world in the world in the countries where we have these insurance companies that are working with us. I mean, it's a limited set of data, so we are not big data, I would say, not for sure at this stage. But it's also true that the company is just starting.
So if I understand correctly, you're not working with the pictures, but you're working with the events, like the metadata of the claims and the process.
There are some metadata. We do not care about the content of the claim. We care about, okay, you make a call, This is the results that you got, and we gave it the results to you. Do you like it? You don't like it? I mean, there is also a feedback loop process that we are implementing. Let's say we tell you that you could settle the claim for a certain amount of money. You have to propose this amount of money to your customer. Of course, there are also some internal decisions. Let's say I know you are a very good customer of mine, so I will treat you in a different way. Or you are a very bad customer. This is the 5th accident in the last few months. Man, it's better to lose you as a customer. So let's say these are the. But we want to know how our models or the models of our providers are, if you like them, and what is the feedback from your side. Because maybe there are better models out there. Maybe there is room for to do something better. But as you can see, we do not, at this stage, so part of the data are internal to Allianz, part of the data are, let's say, will need to be passed to the, we are looking at different options. There are also some regulatory, boundaries of what is possible to do. Main focus for us is not about if Francesco had an accident with his car, but it's more like Allianz Germany. It's going to send us 1,000 claims, and for 500 they went this way, 200 went this other way, etc. Is this acceptable? Is this works, and so on for them? So it's about aggregated data of API calls made by a certain client, customer, I would say.
It's more like you use that aggregated data as input for maybe optimizing your ML model, optimizing the process, optimizing decision making even.
Exactly. I mean, but it's more about allow them to decide if they want to the insurances, if they want to stick with a certain provider or move to another one for a specific part of the process. Let's say you are using provider A to get your the pictures that you get analyzed. There is another provider that could provide a better better value. Maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's more expensive, but provides more to analyze the pictures. You could do A/B testing. You could do this kind of these are ideas, right? These are the things we are going to probably implement in a short future. The insurance, it's an industry where there are a lot of barriers to enter. It ends up a bit like a niche market. You cannot claim you are a new insurance. There are these players. It's very hard to get in, and there are a lot of money happening there.
Yeah, that's funny. That reminds me of a discussion I actually had yesterday, where when you have a market with a high barrier of entry, indeed that motivation to innovate with data is not there, right? Because I mean, business is there; it's always there. People need insurance, but then I think eventually the companies that do innovate with data will eventually grab more market because they become more cost efficient. They streamline the process. They can offer better premiums on their insurance products and so forth. So I think that's something with the startup at Allianz you're trying to achieve, right? Use data to optimize Allianz services.
It's true that using the data better will make but even just being more effective with every part of your let's say the technologies that you use, with the tools that you use, will make you better.
Going back to the data that you have, so the event data, it comes through Kafka in S3. Then you use S3, Snowflake and dbt for transformations and for the analytics. So how do you manage access in these systems? Do people have access on S3? Because you said that you're not using S3; it's only Snowflake. Do people have access on S3? Do people have access on Snowflake? Is there a difference in access? How does it look like?
We are a small team. The engineering team, of course, it's is a bit bigger than our product team, and we do not have a proper, let's say, analyst or a team of people that just want to look at visualization of the data. So we do not have a big concern in terms of access management. Where we want to have, we give access to other people to our system is on Snowflake. On S3, it's just something for the infrastructure team, for us to look at the data and see the data. Before that, the Kafka event also, we don't really care. I mean, I personally don't want to have any access to Kafka. I want just to see the data when they happen, honestly. The access management that we do is on Snowflake. So we have a data engineering team that, of course, it's able to read and write, but we are trying to do everything, like I said, through dbt. Of course, we do some checks. Sometimes we look at some queries and so on. Our analysts, they are read-only, so they can go to Snowflake and they can run some queries. We have some visualization tool that we are now in the POC phase, and again, they will get access through those tools. The access management that we do, it's basic, and in a sense, it's manual. The only thing that will make us a step over going to the database and do grant, select on this table to Bart or to Francesco, is that we use Terraform. I mean, from the beginning, I said, whatever we do on Snowflake, beside the actual tables and views and whatever, it's running with dbt, but the creation of the databases, the creation of the warehouses, the creation of schemas and so on, these roles, users, these go through Terraform. So actually, when I say it's a manual process, for example, to add a new analyst or a new product person to a team, it means go to this repository, and there's a YAML file with the list of people assigned to roles, and you add this person with all the information that you need. You need the name, you need the email, and they will get notified by Snowflake that they get an access on that. So is from one side is it's manual, on the other side is there's a CI/CD pipeline associated with that. So you just add the person, a colleague will review the change, everything is fine, merge, goes into the main branch, it's deployed, and now the person got access to Snowflake. It's let's say small a small environment, little amount of people, it's manageable. I know already that this is not going to work in the future. I saw similar setup in other places, and of course, when you start having, let's say, even 10 or 15 people doing this kind of access, it's becoming annoying, right? Of course, then if you start being in a company that is growing, or it's already grown up, I mean, it's not going to work. The good thing is that at least it's not manual. I mean, what we do is, let's say, we do not assign permission to people. We assign permission only to roles, and we assign the roles to people. So it's that is something that I learned in the past. I mean, doesn't make sense. People can always leave the company, right? The role will not go anywhere. So this is and in the future would be super nice to integrate with with tools for access management. For example, at Zalando, I was in there as a BI architect, and I was taking care of their data warehouse, and there was this big transformation. There were roles, and there were people, and there were permission assigned to people, and a lot of weird stuff. So we had to fix all these and fix also the access management problem. And there are, of course, because of GDPR and because of just because you want to be safe, there are things you need to do. For example, you need to have auditing. You need to have all when you add someone to a group or to give grant some permission to someone, you need to explain why. Because you can always go back. Maybe there is an audit in the future and say, hey, why this person got access to this data? Well, this person asked with this motivation. There was someone that approved it, and so on. There was a process that is documented and was approved, and so on. So maybe it's a wrong process. It could be, but it's a process, so it's better than nothing. It's different than why this person got access. Well, we don't know. I mean, when this person has access. Well, I don't know. I joined 6 months ago, and this person was already here. The other DBA went away, and I don't know. Or maybe it was you. You did it, but it was 2.5 years ago, and now you are completely another person, right? Something like that. So it's we had this this challenge at the Zalando, and again, access management. It's something that I find it's from one side is something that everybody has to deal with. On the other hand, it's something that very little amount of companies are doing it right. So nobody wants to really do it. It's annoying. Okay, I will grant you permission. I will give you, grant all to Bart.
Yeah, admit.
And then it will go away, right? I will never see him again. Seriously, I think it's. I find it's a very interesting problem. So when I was at Zalando, I said, of course, this is not something I want to deal with. So we automate it. I mean, that is the thing. I mean, we have computers, right? So we say the computer, do the thing. If the computer doesn't know how to do the thing, you write some piece of code that will deal with that. And that was what we did. I mean, there was an internal tool at Zalando for authorizing access to groups, which was very, very basic from one side. It was something built internally. Looked a bit like one of these very old Java application.
Yep.
So we interface with the API of this tool and say, okay, we will create groups for each role that you have in the database there. There is a process already built in this tool. There are people that will be the owner of this role, so they can approve the access. I don't want a DBA to approve your access to, let's say, the revenue data because the DBA has no idea what is in the table and should not be the person. I mean, if you want to pay a DBA or a data engineer to know about what is in those tables, of course we can do it. But we will do two things. We will make the DBA and the data engineer very unhappy, and they will go away. And we will be paying a lot of money for a job that someone with less skill can do anyway, because you don't need to be an expert in SQL, Python, Terraform, and AWS, and so on, to know that there are some sales data and there should be a good explanation. You can have someone with less technical skills but more business aware, I would say. So let's try to do this right.
Like a data owner, actually. A data owner should approve. Yeah.
Exactly. So this the owner was not the technical team, because of course you don't want to bother your engineers to approve, John from marketing to get access to the sales data, because otherwise they will give access to everybody. Then they will solve the problem, because they are, they know how to solve the problem. But you want to have a proper process, so you can send an email to the person that is actually the owner of the sales data. And that was something that really worked pretty well. We implemented it. I really liked the solution we come up, because the idea was to build it in a modular way, in the sense that underneath we had Exasol, but we were using also MicroStrategy there as a BI tool. But the idea was you can plug in different tools if you wanted, right? And on top, we were using this tool that was the tool provided by Zalando, but of course we were integrating with it using APIs. And the front end, let's say, that part in the future could change. What is important is to have a proper mapping between the roles there and the roles on your database. And of course, what was nice in that tool was the possibility to create a group that was composed by multiple groups.
Yeah.
So, for example, you could have something, a role that is read-only on the sales data and read-only on the inventory data, and you can create a group that had access to these other two groups.
Yes,
So was
that's what we see
inheriting
lots.
so it was really nice and really smooth, and I think whatever data access management solution someone is looking for has to have this kind of characteristic: the possibility to integrate with many different tools, the possibility to scale, because tomorrow your company will have more people, but also the organization could become more complex.
Yeah.
So, and of course, behind the scene there is logs to be audited and also this kind of information. And at the moment where I am now, we do not have this problem, like I said.
So, Francesca, and that's an interesting point, right? Because now at Allianz, you do it with Terraform, and that's what we see a lot. So teams of a certain size, they use Terraform, they're happy with it. Then we see other organizations like Zalando, they have reached a certain size, and then they need like a more holistic approach where you can manage your access in one location using UI, role inheritance, audit logs, to all the whole governance. At what point do you think, like, do you have to transition? Like, at which point at Allianz, for instance, will the solution with Terraform not work anymore, and you have to go to a solution like at Zalando?
This is a very good question, and I'm laughing because sometimes I listen to podcasts and I hear people, "Oh, this is a very good question." It's a very dumb question, but that is. But now I know why they say that, because they can use this time to think about it. Okay, now, this is a very good question. What I should say to this guy? Again, it's ideally in a world with where everybody is happy and everybody is rich and there are no problem. I would say start as soon as possible with the proper tool, because that will make you will not need to change in the future. It's maybe for a very small team, it's could be a bit let's say overhead at the beginning, but when you don't change your permission all the time, you change your permissions all the time when you are at scale, right? When you have 1,000 users, 10,000 users, more, it's that is at that point you are already too late if you didn't switch yet. I would say that when you are starting to go in double digits, you should start thinking about that. When you are about 50 users, it's time probably that you seriously think about that. For when you are out to 100 users, you should already have a tool for that.
Yeah.
You should already have something that makes your life easier. And I'm not talking about Terraform, which works, but it works when you have like 10 people. 20 people, I can also see this working, but for sure it will not work for when you go further. It's just it's very simple. I mean, all your company at that point it's scaling and it's growing, so you will not start at 50, but you will become 100. But even if you don't stop, business always change. There are regulation. Even if the business change, people change. Some people will leave the company, someone will be hired, and so on. But even if people do not change, there are regulations that are telling you should review your processes, your access, and so on. So let's say if Bart has access to the sales data because he asked for this access 6 months ago, is it still valid for Bart to have access to the sales data? So you should have a way to review. And let's be honest, you will not review it if you have just an alert in your calendar. Every 6 months you get an alert and you have to review this. I mean, that was an amazing process. I mean, yeah, I have it. Click, done. So when there is an audit, did you do the review? Well, we had no, we didn't. Did you have the alert in the calendar? Yes, we had. Okay, then it's not the best, because when you get the alert, you should actually review it, but we can live with that. No, that doesn't work. I mean, when the best is to have a tool that helps you with that. And the tool, what we'll do is to review the access. For example, in my mind will be like something like, hey, Bart, do you still need this access? And then you can click yes or no. And then this will send a request to the data owner and say, hey, Bart is asking for another 6 months of access to this data with the same request. Now, if in the previous request 6 months ago, now we are in April, let's say we were in November, your request was, I need to access the sales data because I need to check how we go over the Christmas period, right? And now in April, you are telling me that you want another 6 months because you need the data for the Christmas period. Well, April it's 4, plus 6 is October. Well, man, there is no Christmas period in October. So I think this is bullshit. So, I mean, it's a bit risky to approve your access to this data if there is no Christmas in the middle. So I would say having a tool can help you and can help you also to be better. Because at that point, you don't say things like Christmas, but you would say, I need to do this because I'm doing some processing every month. I need to look at the numbers every month because to prepare some reports for higher ups, I need to prepare a dashboard. I need to provide this data to someone else, and so on. So I think having a tool for this kind of thing, it's important, even at small scale. And I would say, for now, I'm fine. I would say with less than 10 users probably. But I would say that as soon as we break over 12, 15, I will seriously start thinking about that, because it's something that we need to have for not only to make our life easier, but but it's I would say to make our life more I would say peaceful, or more relaxed. I know that there is a tool that is helping me on the access management. I don't want to do that. I mean, it's I hope this answers your very good questions.
It's also the perfect way to end our very interesting chat. A tool to manage data access gives you a peace of mind, and not my words, but Francesco's words. So Francesco, thank you so much for the super interesting and also at times very funny chat. Really appreciate you coming on our show.
Thank you for having me. It was quite fun. It's always nice to talk with you, Bart.
All right, brilliant. Hey, and thank you for watching. Ciao.